Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, Books, Girls, and Purrs. My name's Leslie and it's October. I'm not much for dressing up, so I decided that for the month of October I just have maybe more of a cozy late night atmosphere. So I'm wearing a blanket and I'm ready to talk about a trilogy. It's called the Cozy Mystery Series, and it's by Tamara. I have the first book, and then the other two I listened to on Libby app and maybe Audible. So yeah, the first book in the series is Buried in a Good Book, which is about a mother and daughter. The mother is recently divorced, and to possibly have a fresh start or just to kind of figure out what she's gonna do, she stays at a property that she inherited by her grandpa. The town is definitely it's a sleepy little town, and her daughter stay in a cabin, as well as I believe she's inherited like an old dilapidated hardware store. When she arrives, a murder takes place, and even though that's terrible, that's great for the main character, Tess, because Tess is a, what do you call it? She's a crime fiction writer. So when I was reading this book, I would say, if you're looking for a quick reference, I would just mention the television series Castle, or even the television series that's on Hulu that's called Only Murders in the Building. That's the kind of vibe that I get from these books. So I'm trying to think what to say. I really enjoyed this book. There was such a dark sense of humor, and the main character is just nosy and pushes boundaries. And really has a knack for letting her imagination run based on all her writing experience. The structure itself of the book is also this like meta nod to what's going on. For an instance, the main character thinks about something and that she's trying to draft as far as a book based on the investigation that she's kind of nosed her way into, and she thinks to herself, oh, that won't really fit here, that'll have to be at the beginning of a chapter. But as she's saying that, we're already reading the beginning of a chapter, so I thought that was really funny. I think I mentioned that there's a dark sense of humor, and and a great example is that the main character has a theory about what could possibly going on. She has many, so I'll just say whatever I say won't be giving anything away. Like, one of them is like, maybe there's some dark underbelly within the town, like some sort of crime ring. And she's so excited at this thought, but then she stops herself and realizes she shouldn't be excited about that at all if it is true, because a murder took place. And so yeah, I really enjoyed the dark humor. I enjoyed the characters. And what I also really liked about this book is that it really puts into perspective how when a crime takes place, part of the problem is not necessarily that there's not enough clues, but at times there could be too many clues, or being able to really determine what is a clue in the first place, right? And that reminded me of reading a nonfiction book called I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara, whose book was released post, I don't know how to say it, after she had passed away. And that's something that's pointed out in the book, that sometimes there's just so much overwhelming data that it's hard to kind of find what path to follow based on the information. And I felt like this character in the book really crafted that well, or I should say the author did, right? There is like the possibility of a romance in this book, but it is so slight, so subtle that I think I enjoyed it more. I love when there's like maybe a hint at romance, and it really kind of took me off guard, and that I was enjoying this book so much that I actually gasped at the idea as I was reading it, which is just so ridiculous. I don't think I've ever gasped before. And what I also like about the possibility of romance that was hinted at in this book is that the romance has nothing to do with solving a crime. And I really value that. I value that that wasn't a part of what the main character was trying to solve. So yeah, I'd have to say that by the end of the book, I started to not like the main character, but I just wasn't sure. Then at the end of this particular book, there is a twist. And once that twist happened, I found myself liking the main character even less, if that makes any sense. So that's what I'll have to say about the first one, Buried in a Good Book. The second one, oh gosh, I'm already forgetting. Something Spine. I had to write it down because I didn't want to forget. Oh, the next book is called On Spine of Death. So now the main character and her daughter are continuing to live in this town. And not only are they renovating the cabin that they live at, they're also renovating the hardware store that the main character Tess inherited. And she's going to turn it into a bookstore, which I just loved. With all that development, the main character also released a book. And it's a work of fiction, but it is based on what happened to her in the first book. And so that's definitely put like a spotlight on the town. And so we also get to know what people feel about that. So in this second book, what happens is, as the main character is renovating the hardware store into a bookstore, there are old dead bodies that are found. So the mystery becomes, okay, well, who are these people and were they murdered? I'm sorry, I don't know if you could hear that, but that was my cats acting wild in the other room. All right, so what I enjoyed about the second book is that we get to know the people of the town better. I do feel like at times there may have been one too many characters. And something that I really valued about the first book is that although the main character Tess is smart, creative, and that's her skill set as a crime fiction writer, that does not trump other people's intelligence as the investigation went on. That's a pet peeve of mine, whether it's a book or of a television show, when a character is written in a way where they're supposed to be the smart one, but in order to exhibit that, the other characters become dumb. That really bothers me because I just don't think that's true. So in this story, I felt like there are some characters and language that was just like rubbing me the wrong way. And yes, additionally, the main character started to really get under my skin more than the first book. You know, like the first book, some of the things that bothered me, I was able to brush off. Not so much in the second book. Specifically when it comes to at times when the character feels entitled at some points. And although this is supposed to be like a cozy mystery read, I still need to read something that I think is somehow plausible, and I felt like the connections that this particular book made to solve the crime didn't really work for me. And so that's where I kind of was at by the second book. So the third book is Murder Off the Books. So now the main character, Tess, is, I think she's doing like a soft opening or a grand opening to her bookstore. Her mom comes into town with a gentleman that she's seeing, but the man that her mom's seeing has like a shady past, and I don't know how much to give away because I want you to read it. A murder takes place, of course, and that really sends everyone off into investigating in a way where the main character doesn't necessarily know who to trust, because with this grand opening and this shady character coming to town, this brought other people to town that are outsiders, and also trying to investigate this crime that happened. By this point in the story, I almost DNF'd the book because I could not stand the main character. She just makes some really ageist comments that I thought, actually I should say this, I thought it was a character, but then there's another character that also makes some really ageist comments, and so now I'm left to believe that this isn't really necessarily about what the character believes. I think this is a value that the author has, and that was just such a turn off while reading the book. And then as I read further, the main character does have a daughter, and there's this moment where something happens and the author brings up her daughter's like white privilege. It was just so weirdly brought up, kind of shoehorned into the story, and it didn't really lead anywhere. There was no like consequence or larger conversation going on about that. And that's actually something that when I look back, she kind of did throughout the books that just didn't work, that just came off clunky. And I still don't have an answer after all that, why she would bring up certain things like that if it didn't really serve the story. So that was really throwing me. Something else that I didn't like about this book is there's this introduction to like not quite a love triangle, right? She suddenly has like 2 love interests, and whenever there's a love triangle per se, I'm so tired of it. I'm just so tired. It's frustrating when there's a potential for a relationship, and the only conflict that the writer could drum up is to throw someone else in the mix. It just didn't really work for me. Something that the character says, and I want to say it was this last book, probably at the beginning, she just makes one of her love interests seems like they're so emotionally unavailable, and that's what she's attracted to. And even by extension, that's something that like is stereotypical of a man, and I just didn't like that either. So by the end of the 3rd book, I just didn't like the main character, and yeah, it just made it really, really hard to read. So if you're looking for a cozy mystery, I would say pick it up. I don't know, maybe just read the first one, because I enjoyed that one the most. But yeah, that's how I felt about that. If you're reading any cozy mystery reads, or maybe cozy scary for October, let me know what you think. If you're new here, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below, and if you've read this, please let me know. This actually won an award and I read an article about the author, and so that's why I wanted to read it. So there's definitely some mixed feelings. I'd have to say that the first one is the funniest. There's even a mention of Bigfoot at some point. I just realized I didn't bring that up earlier. But yeah, that's it for this segment, and I'll talk to you later.